Unemployed need not apply. Worker advocates say that practice is being carried out sometimes in an overt way as job applicants who've been unemployed for 6 months or more find themselves shut out of the labor market. How widespread is this, and is it legal? Joining me now from our Washington bureau, Christine Owens, Executive Director of the National Employment Law Project, which promotes jobs for lower wage workers. Ms. Owens, welcome to Bloomberg's Bottom Line. Good to have you on.
Thank you so much.
You testified yesterday before the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC. A member of the commission, Stuart Ishimaru, asked a question that was telling in its directness and its simplicity, given that so many Americans are desperate to find work. And I thought that his question is worth repeating. Why would an employer want to do this, and what's the rationale?
I can't really understand the rationale or speak for employers. I do think that some employers find it easier to figure out ways to weed out applicants and reduce the number of applications they are looking at. And so they use simple devices, simple exclusionary devices, and one of those may be that someone has to be currently employed or can't have been unemployed for more than a certain period of time in order to be considered for the job. The effect, of course, is to eliminate a lot of people who are perfectly qualified, but they have the misfortune of having lost their jobs in this economy.
Who's most at risk here?
Well, the interesting thing is that because we have different unemployment levels and rates among different groups of the population, we actually do find that certain groups are more adversely affected by the practice than others. So, for example, African Americans have twice the unemployment rate of white workers. So a policy of refusing to consider anybody who's unemployed is going to have a harsher impact on African American workers because of the higher unemployment rate. And older workers, and by that I mean workers over 45 or 55, are much more likely to have long periods of unemployment than younger workers. So a policy of eliminating applicants who've been unemployed for 6 months or longer is going to have a more significant impact on older unemployed workers than it will on younger unemployed workers.
Ms. Owens, what impact does shutting unemployed workers out of the job market have on the overall economy?
I would say it has a significant impact because many people who are unemployed have really valuable skills and are eager to get back to work, would be very productive employees, really appreciate having a job and know the importance of coming to work and doing your job. So I think that shutting the unemployed out is depriving employers and denying the economy of a very productive workforce that's hungry to get back to work, and that's bad for the economy.
I guess one of the major questions that comes out of this now is the denial of the unemployed in the job search process legal?
That will depend on where it's happening. One of the tests that the EEOC would look at if it were to take up a case involving this issue is, well, what's the applicant pool in the community where this is going on? Is this a community where unemployment rates are particularly high among African Americans or among women, among older workers? Is this a community that has a large population drawn from those groups? And as a result, if you do a statistical analysis, will this practice disproportionately exclude people of color or older workers or disabled workers? And if that were the case, then the EEOC may well find that the practice was discriminatory. It would be a different calculus if it happened to occur in a community that had a fairly low population of people of color. So even though nationally the impact might be significant in that local community, it would not have the same impact. So it really will be a case-by-case analysis and determination.
Well, the EEOC, as you mentioned, it is aware of the practice of excluding the unemployed from the job application process. What's the agency doing about it, and is it enough?
I think the agency took a really important first step yesterday by holding this meeting that it devoted to this question, and they had a number of witnesses who testified about examples, documented examples of this exclusion, who are the workers most likely to be affected, what kind of remedies the agency might have. I think the next step that the agency should take is to provide public education about what the impact of this practice is, and then to invite individuals who feel that they have been victimized by the practice to come forward with charges or complaints, and then to investigate those and determine whether there was any unlawful conduct or whether there's a showing that the practice hurt a particular group.
Ms. Owens, does Congress have any recourse, and what about the states?
Congress could legislate. Congress could pass a law saying that it's unlawful to exclude unemployed workers solely because of their unemployment from job consideration. And similarly, the states could do something. Many states actually have laws that prohibit some forms of unfair treatment because someone is collecting unemployment. States could build on those laws to cover employment practices as well.
Ms. Owens, in about 20 seconds, we saw a recent drop in the unemployment rate. The White House said it's a sign the economy is headed in the right direction, albeit slowly. You say the drop's misleading. Again, in about 20 seconds, why do you think that?
I think it because, among other things, we saw 2.8 million people drop out of the labor force last month, and they don't show up in this official unemployment rate. So if you take into account the people who actually dropped out of the labor force, just weren't looking for jobs, then the unemployment rate would be much higher. That's a record level for us of people dropping out of the labor force.
All right, Christine Owens, Executive Director of the National Employment Law Project, joining us from Washington. Ms. Owens, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.